Oh, friends, it's time for another installment of Volume 7 of Heaven Official's Blessing! Oh my god! And if you were with me last week, you saw that I got a little fangirl crazy because how could you not? Because it was amazing! Oh my gosh, I'm still wearing the white coat, different shirt underneath, but the white coat because we are still in the snow up on Mount Tonglu. I guess we're not at the snow peaks of Mount Tonglu anymore, but I'm still celebrating Lian being back, baby, and WuXiang being back, and they've confessed their love for each other, and it's wonderful and magical, and Pei Ming and Feng Xin and Mu Qing's reactions were priceless, and I'm just on cloud 9. And Yijin's like, what? And Yin Yu's like, oh my god, it's just been a great time. The Donghua is back, the Manhua is here. It's a good day for Heaven Official's Blessing, let me just say. So, I'm really excited. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen with this set of chapters. I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know anything about Volume 7 or Volume 8. I don't want to know any expectations. It could be like the saddest stuff in the world. I don't want to know. I want to go in completely blind with y'all and be able to have as much excitement because reading last week's chapter set was a thrill. I was so just elated. It was amazing and I loved every second of it and I want that vibe to continue. So we don't have any Manhwa chapter this week. Sad days. That'll be next week. We'll get chapter 99 next week. But we are looking at chapters 203 to 205, pages 45 to 74 in the official English translation today. So I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen. All we know is we got this beautiful glossy cover of the two of them happy together. Let's just keep that momentum going. But I have lots of questions. As you guys know from last week, the whiteboard coon is at the ready. But there are some comments that I want to get to, quite a few, before we start this chapter set. Now, having read the last set of chapters, I was thinking about them and talking a little bit in the Discord about the chapters previously. And it got me thinking. And I wanted to say a few things before noting the comments for this week. One, the idea that Long Ying and Lian being crown princes of their kingdoms and being targeted by Bai WuXiang. The parallels there is a little, I don't know if I talked a lot about it last week, but there's some parallels there that are interesting. Like you have Long Ying who had the aura of a king, so he was set to possibly ascend if he hadn't died originally. You have Lian who did ascend. It's like Bai WuXiang has been preying on potential ascended princes for quite some time. And maybe trying to find his disciple for quite some time, which is, ugh. But the thing is, Long Ying had his wife and son that he loved. Lian had his parents and WuXiang that have loved him. So Bai WuXiang was never able to convert either of them fully because there was always someone there to support them and to try to protect them, even though Bai WuXiang didn't really give much of a thought to WuXiang. So I thought that was an interesting parallel. I didn't talk about it last week, but I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, Bai WuXiang is just kind of like this predator, just preying on newly ascended or potential ascended individuals. And I'm like, get away, get a restraining order against Bai WuXiang for sure. Also, the Lucky Purse talked about how Lian is able to relate. I hadn't even thought of this, but this is really good. Lucky Purse said Lian is able to relate to Heshan in the Darkwater or Blackwater arc because of his origins being similar to when Lian was in like his dark Bai WuXiang disciple form. Yeah, so it makes sense now why when all the stuff with Heshan was going down, Lian was like, yeah, I can kind of relate. Like, it makes more sense now. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And Lian can relate a lot to the ghosts because he kind of has been in those dark, desperate places as well. Can kind of relate to them. So thank you, Lucky Purse, for pointing that out. Fiona, I love the way Fiona phrased it. It was the common people that saved Lian. Lian tried for so many years to save the common people and make it his goal, but he didn't need to save them. They saved him. My heart, am I right? Anime Annie talks about how it is weird now thinking back to book 2, and it's going to be very weird in the Donghua to see Lian going back to the mausoleum, knowing that Bai WuXiang set that all up. That's a weird thing. That is so weird. It was weird for me. So yeah, I agree. That's very strange. And then the concept of just one is enough. I love the idea that goes back to Lian going out of his way to save WuXiang. Lian went out of his way to protect WuXiang when he was a child back in Shanla, and Mu Qing and Feng Xin were like, why are you wasting your time on this one person? But just that one person was able to save Shi Lian as well. I know HEADPHONE didn't save him from Bai WuXiang, but he's been trying to, and is part of a catalyst. Honestly, HEADPHONE, even though he didn't technically save Shi Lian in the end, it was that grumpy man. HEADPHONE was integral to Shi Lian being saved. Because he followed him, he tried to protect him, he did his best to kind of be with him. Even though he kind of enabled him a little bit, he was still an integral player. And if Shi Lian hadn't saved him back then, WuXiang could have become another Heshan. He could have become another Bai WuXiang. But Shi Lian saved just one person, and that was all it took. So I love that. I think that's really, really good. And then maybe MXTX made Jun Wu and Bai WuXiang fight off screen. They were like, well, here's my theory, because Anime Annie was like, oh, well, Jun Wu and Bai WuXiang had to fight off screen. And isn't that funny? My theory is that they made them fight off screen because we're going to see a fight happen with Bai WuXiang in this volume. MXTX did not want to give us back-to-back fights with Bai WuXiang because it was like that would get too repetitive. So they're like, okay, the fight in the past doesn't matter, so I'm just going to do that off screen. Y'all know what happens. Y'all know the outcome. Done. So that we can see Jun Wu potentially fight Bai WuXiang here in the present, which I'm really excited about. So I hope that's the case. I hope we see an actual battle against Bai WuXiang. That'd be great. So, but who knows? I've been surprised by MXTX before, so I'm holding nothing back. But I thought that was really good to note. Sarah Linda, I really like the way Sarah Linda phrased this. Sarah Linda said, one uncommon man and one uncommon ghost to save one very uncommon God. Ah, my heart. I loved that. And then to assure that humanity is worth saving. That there's some really shit people, but in the end, there's always someone worth saving. I love that. And then Ruyi, born of blood and death, but also born between the love of Shi Lian and his parents and the love they had for each other. That's why Ruyi is so, like, he's like a little puppy dog. There's that love there. There's that bloodshed and darkness, but there's also that love. So great. So thank you, Sarah Linda. SQQLBH314 talked about how Shi Lian and Shirong, they definitely share the foul mouths, right? Shirong just does it all the time, and Shi Lian's held himself back, but they're both guilty of it, having some vulgar sailor mouths, which is funny. The friendship, or no, not friendship, no. SQQLBH314 said that their friend ships Jun Wu and Bai WuXiang, which I joked about that. When did we joke about that? Way back, because y'all in the Discord were like, but you didn't spoil anything, so that's great. But honestly, I like the way that SQQLBH's friend phrased it. They said that Bai WuXiang and Jun Wu are like the parents fighting over custody of Shi Lian. Jun Wu is like the dad that wants Shi Lian to take over the heavenly family business, and Bai WuXiang is like the helicopter mom that's like obsessive about her kid, like doing everything that they want to do, and they're just in this constant battle with Shi Lian. I can see it. I kind of ship Bai WuXiang and Jun Wu in a crack pairing. I don't want Jun Wu and Shi Lian shipped together, and I don't want Bai WuXiang and Shi Lian shipped together, so this solves my problem. But we'll see how these chapters shake out, right? May not need to have any shipping going on, right? And Function. Function might have had Shi Lian's cooking at the temple back at the end of chapter 193, or they may have remembered the mom's cooking and connected to Shi Lian. I like the idea that several of you have said, SQQLBH314 included, that Shi Lian's cooking used to be okay, but in honor of his mom and to remember her by, he intentionally cooks bad and names the food, and it's like homage to her. And WuXiang eats it because he knows everything that Shi Lian has gone through and why he does it. So it's like, I really like that. And then finally, Lou says that it ties to the theme. These last set of chapters 191 to 193, tied to the theme of being able to hurt and choosing not to have the option of violence on the table and to choose to not do it. And I liked what Lou said about how in the previous chapters, like in the book 4 chapters, WuXiang as Wu Ming was very much doing everything Shi Lian asked. And even when things were bad, like killing the family of Yongin and things like that, Wu Ming went along with it because they were so devoted towards Shi Lian. And they kind of enabled each other, which again is probably why Jun Wu was like, be careful of WuXiang. But the thing of it is, now, after all these years, WuXiang has realized how that enabling has hurt Shi Lian. And he's like, I don't want to do that. So WuXiang is a little bit more proactive about holding Shi Lian accountable and also standing up and protesting when Lian is doing something that he thinks is wrong. So I like that. I like that both Lian and WuXiang have had such growth over the course of this story. It's really good to see. But yeah, so that was 10 minutes. Got my comments done. Got my preview in. Haha. Yay. Feeling good about that. But I'm really excited, y'all. Last week was so much fun. Those chapters, I was fangirling so much. And it's so good to be back in the present. It's so good to be out of book 4. It's just the best feeling. And now, Bai WuXiang has shown up to threaten them, but Jun Wu is here too. So, gee, I can't imagine. I feel like RuPaul with it's from Rocky Horror where they have the set of opera glasses. I can't wait to see how this turns out. Really excited. But yes, we're not going to waste any more time, y'all. We are going to dive right in and see what we get. So we're going to look at chapters 203 to 205 of Heaven Official's Blessing here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 203, the White Emperor comments on the mysterious Goshi! Yes, bring him in this. Exposition ex machina, let's go. When that powerful spiritual light shone onto the resentful spirits, field after field of smoke and clouds dispersed and dissipated. A martial god donned in white armor with a sword in hand broke through the clouds. It was certainly Jun Wu. When the party saw him, it was as if their parents had come back to life and they cried, "Ah, my lord!" Tears streamed down their faces. Daddy Jun Wu! Each of Jun Wu's steps radiated glory as he languidly landed. Don't panic. Is everyone all right? I like that the word languid is tied to both, and of course my dogs will go crazy. The word languid is tied to both WuXiang and Jun Wu. Like that that's a thing there. The four within the array of spiritual light quickly disassembled and transformed back to their original forms. Oh, we can't let Jun Wu see the sword orgy that's been going on? No, what would Daddy think? Yeah, Pei Ming asked, "My lord, aren't you guarding the heavenly capital? How have you come personally?" Lord Rainmaster informed me through the communication array that the barrier of Mount Tonglu had broken. The circumstances are dire, so I've come. I like that Yushi was just like, "Hey, Jun Wu, we gotta talk." We'll talk about this in the discussion. Everyone looked over and the Rainmaster was still riding atop the black ox and all thought, so that was it. Since the barrier had broken, then surely communication spells would be functional again. Their heads were all rushed with blood earlier and their minds filled with nothing but destroying the spirits, among other things. And almost no one had thought to communicate through the array. I like you, she has a smart head here, right? Lian took a step forward. "My lord, it's White No-Face. He's come back." Jun Wu nodded faintly. "I figured he would be relentless." "He's very elusive," Lian said. "Now that you've come, we don't know where he's gone hiding." "Ah, shit. No matter. Let's settle these resentful spirits first before we go seek him." Okay, everyone looked to the sky, and the rolling black clouds in the air were currently being purified by the powerful white light that Jun Wu brought forth. Oh my god! Pei Ming said, "So the birth of a new ghost king has been stopped this time, right?" "I guess so," Lian said. "After all, the one who broke through the kiln wasn't anyone but this." Oh. Everyone's eyes moved uniformly to the side. After Lian stopped controlling it, the giant stone divine statue was still obediently lying on the ground. A gigantic, exquisitely sculpted thing. Now that it had fallen down, it looked like a small mountain. Lian stood near it and raised a hand to pet its cheek, and turned to WuXiang. "Sanlong, what should we do with it?" WuXiang had looked thoughtful, and when he heard the question, he snapped out of it. "There's no need for Gege to worry. Until it's been repaired, let's leave it here for now." "Can it be repaired?" "Of course, as long as there's the stones of the kiln. I will have it repaired for sure, and have it stand once again." "Then let's leave it for now," Lian said. "The volcano over by the kiln is still erupting. Who knows when it'll be safe again?" Right then, the resentful spirit swirling in the air suddenly shrieked and transformed into a tornado, charging towards somewhere. For a moment, no one could tell what had happened, but when they looked closely, they saw the place the spirits were rushing to was the divine temple of WuYong in the underground. Originally, those creatures had nowhere to hide under the powerful glaring rays and would disperse sooner or later. But after such a large number of resentful spirits poured into the underground temple, it was as if they were completely sucked clean, completely vanished. WuXiang was dumbfounded. "What's going on?" Lian felt dread and exclaimed, "It's the White No-Face. He's drawn a distance-shortening array and sent those resentful spirits away." Jun Wu swept his hand and threw off the roof of the temple, and a large piece of ground was peeled away too. Oh, however, other than the giant array that was drawn inside, there was nothing else. Just what is he planning? Function exclaimed. Where did he connect the array to? Where has he sent them? If this was the past, then this would be when Ling Wen would enter the picture. It wouldn't have taken more than half an instant's time for the palace of Ling Wen to report all the locations. Yet now, who knows which civil gods had taken over the position temporarily, but right when they were needed, not a single person could be found. Oh, come on. Function cursed in outrage. Well, fuck! And they usually blow themselves to the skies fighting to show off. Now that it's time to show what they've got, the hell have they all gone? I'll never say the palace of Ling Wen is inefficient ever again. Just then, WuXiang's voice came at the royal capital. Everyone turned to him as he dropped two long and slender fingers from the temple. He sent those creatures to a number of different fortress cities. So far, only the royal capital is a definite target, since the essence of evil there suddenly spiked. The civil gods of the heavenly court were useless, and they had to rely on the head honcho of the ghost realm to determine the location of escaped evil beings. Many of the heavenly officials present couldn't help but feel ashamed. However, because the situation was dire, the sense of shame went away pretty fast. WuXiang spoke up. We know very well that the white-clothed calamity is planning. Of course he'll send those creatures where there's the most people. Once the human face disease explodes, it'll spread quickly, and the royal capital is the most populated. Of course he wouldn't let it go. Pei Ming also piped up. Well, let's take care of this quickly. There's no time to waste. Otherwise, if we delay for too long, things will get ugly. The temporary civil gods were also making Jun Wu speechless with a headache. And he turned to WuXiang. Has this good sir found out the exact locations of any other fortress cities? Oh my god! This good sir! They're currently being located. It won't take long. Yin Yu, you take over, WuXiang commanded. Yes, sir, Yin Yu quickly acknowledged. He'd been banished by Jun Wu in the past, and while Jun Wu was only doing his duty, when he saw Jun Wu, he couldn't help but feel nervous. After communicating with the subordinates on the ghost city at the side for a moment, Yin Yu prudently reported the general directions. 300 miles south, 270 miles north. Jun Wu turned to Fengshen. Nanyang, you take the south. Fengshen didn't instantly acknowledge the order and hesitated for a moment. Lian figured it was because he wanted to search for Jianlan and the fetus spirit, and was just about to speak when Fengshen answered and walked away to draw an array for himself. Pei Ming spoke up knowingly. I'll take the north. Naturally, Jun Wu replied. Pei Ming nodded, turned around, and walked away, but after a few steps, Pei Su came following after him, and he looked back. Your wounds aren't healed yet, and the poison hasn't been cleaned out. Stay with Lord Rainmaster for now. Pei Su was puzzled. General, I'm not poisoned. Pei Ming patted his shoulder sympathetically. Your broken phrases haven't healed yet, and you say you're not poisoned? Then he inclined his head slightly, bowing to the Rainmaster in courtesy before leaving on his own. Aha! Leave my nephew with the Rainmaster, no worries. Then he inclined his head. Yes, Jun Wu continued. Qi Ying, why don't you go to the west? Remember not to cause. However, Chan Yijin was confused. Why am I going to the west? Just what exactly are we doing right now? Oh! No one could blame him for not knowing what was going on. Perhaps he was confused the entire way. Why was he beaten? Why was he buried inside a wall? Why was he turned into a Daruma doll? Why did he have to turn to a sword too? There was not a single point where he'd figured out what was happening. Seeing this, Yin Yu sighed. I'll take him. I'll tell him on the way. There was probably no one with the patience to tell him anyway. Okay, Chan Yijin said enthusiastically. WuXiang waited and waited, but his turn never came. And he couldn't help but ask, my lord, what about me? Jun Wu looked over at him and said, Zhang Jin, have you forgotten something? WuXiang was confused. What? You're currently under detention, Jun Wu said. WuXiang's face immediately fell. He really did forget about this. And not just him, almost everyone had forgotten that WuXiang had escaped the heavenly court under suspicion of creating the fetus spirit using wicked spells, and that suspicion hadn't yet cleared. You don't have to get involved. Head back to the heavenly court and the confinement will be reinstated. My lord, it really wasn't me, WuXiang cried. Once we get to the bottom of the affair and the truth is revealed, you will naturally be released, Jun Wu said. If I let you out without reason now, it'd be a disgrace. WuXiang felt horribly aggrieved, but at the same time there was nothing he could do. He could only acknowledge quietly, yes, sir. Seeing WuXiang so tormented, WuXiang laughed out loud unkindly without holding back. WuXiang gave him a look and then glanced at Lian, who was beside him. He must have thought of something as his face grew darker by the minute. As for the rest, the Rainmaster was no martial god, so she didn't try to act tough. She only made it clear that should there be any need for her assistance, just to call her, and she left silently. Lian naturally chose the royal capital, which was most populated and the most difficult to deal with. As for Jun Wu, he would stay behind and face the 3 mountain spirits, as well as White No-Face, who could still very well be around. Oh my god, we're just splitting everybody up. WuXiang tossed the dice and opened the distance-shortening array, and he and Lian left together. Oh, of course they left together. It was already deep in the night at the royal capital. The streets were silent. There was not a sound. Each household had their windows and doors shut tight. Lian and WuXiang flashed out from one of the alleyways and started searching for inhuman creatures as they speed walked. After a few steps, Lian raised 2 fingers and pressed them against his temple, activating the communication array, whispering, "My lord." "What is it, Shanla?" Jun Wu answered. "Have you reached the royal capital? We've arrived. I have something to talk to you about," Lian said. "Did the Crimson Rainstop Flower do something to you?" Ah! Oh no, Jun Wu questioned. WuXiang seemed to have noticed something and cocked a brow, and Lian replied, "No, he hasn't done anything to me. It's something else. The situation earlier was too urgent. I didn't have a chance to speak." "My lord, do you still remember my master?" Hearing him mention this person, Jun Wu seemed to be slightly taken aback. And a moment later, he replied, "Are you talking about the Goshi of Shanla back then?" "Yes. You must have come in contact with him quite a bit in the past. Have you noticed anything strange or unusual about him?" All ceremonies and services in the kingdom of Shanla were conducted solely by the Goshi, and the Goshi were the bridge that connected the mortals to the gods. After a moment of silence, Jun Wu replied, "Yes." Lian held his breath. How was he strange? "Shanla, do you really want to hear this?" Jun Wu said. "Yes," Lian said. "Even if you'd become disappointed after you heard?" Jun Wu asked. Lian glanced at WuXiang. "Yes." It was a good while before Jun Wu said slowly, "The master of yours, to be the Goshi of Shanla, was a gross oppression of his talents. His knowledge and skills are far beyond your imagination." Lian listened quietly. The next word made his heart sink. Jun Wu continued, "I believe the true number of years that Goshi has passed in this world is no less than mine, perhaps even greater than mine." Oh, a part of his conjecture had been verified. If the Goshi truly lived in this world for longer than Jun Wu, then the possibility he was one of the 4 guardians of the Crown Prince of WuYong was even greater. Lian couldn't help but ask, "How come you've never told me this before?" "Because for a long time I couldn't be sure," Jun Wu said. "Then how did you confirm this later?" Lian asked. "After Shanla had fallen, I found him and neutralized him. But now, it seems, in the end, he still escaped." That there could be someone other than White No-Face who could escape from Jun Wu's hands. Lian had always thought that the Goshi had fled during the chaos of war, but he hadn't thought it was Jun Wu who personally went to do him in. Then why did you need to neutralize him?" Lian asked. "And why didn't you tell me after you had verified it?" Your two questions are actually one question," Jun Wu said. "What?" "If I had told you, perhaps you would feel disappointed when you heard it. But perhaps the you of now can withstand feeling disappointed in others." Lian's heart was thumping faster and faster, and he consciously clutched one of WuXiang's hands tight. WuXiang's other hand came to cover the back of his own. On the other end, Jun Wu said, "Because I discovered that he seemed to want to awaken something within you." What? What is happening? What? Chapter 204, Search for 500. Abrupt meeting with an old friend. "And what is that?" Lian asked. However, Jun Wu seemed to be quietly concerned with the subject, and he deliberated for a long while before he said, "What is it, Shanla? Why do you suddenly bring up your master? Did you run into something inside of Mount Tonglu that has something to do with him?" "Oh, quit dodging the subject and answer the question!" Lian came to his senses and was just about to give a quick account before pressing with more questions, when suddenly there was a clamoring noise on the other end. Jun Wu said, "I see the 3 mountain spirits you all spoke of before. Indeed peculiar. I'll take care of them first, and we can talk again later. However, since Shanla has made the inquiry," Just remember one thing. Your master isn't any simple character. If you do run into him, be absolutely careful. Oh my God! Then the other end fell into deep silence. My lord, Lian called out. Jun Wu did not respond again. Just one of those mountain spirits was hard enough to deal with. To have the three surround and siege must be even more difficult. Even when Lian had limitless spiritual powers earlier and controlled a heaven-defying giant divine statue, he couldn't take care of them. And now Jun Wu was facing them by himself, so he probably would need to focus and exert quite a bit of strength. Lian gave WuXiang a brief account of the conversation during the communication, and the two stopped in their steps. At this moment, they were situated on a wide and expansive street. Gazing towards the sky, gloomy clouds concealed the moon. Faint threads and strings of black, smoke-like creatures could be seen drifting before the cold moon, like ink blurring in clear water. Those were the resentful spirits sent over from the divine temple of WuYong. They hadn't yet entered because the aura of the king within the palace and the many temples of various gods within the royal capital shone brightly, their auras intertwining, weaving a solemn shield. A natural barrier such as this would block those wicked beings outside the shield, and they could only drift high into the sky. Almost every city fortress possessed a similar shield because outstanding characters and impressive heavenly officials could appear everywhere. Rich land fosters talent, as they say. But those shields couldn't block everything forever. It'll be good as long as we add reinforcements to the shield, WuXiang said. But the problem was how to reinforce. Lian mused. Talisman spells, spiritual devices, they probably won't be enough. The resentful spirits enveloped the entire sky of the royal capital, so unless they had millions of talismans and spiritual devices, they might not hold. Pacing back and forth, Lian gritted his teeth. Long, I have an idea that could maybe reinforce this barrier, but I need people. How many? WuXiang asked. A lot. As many as possible, at least 500. Alive or dead? WuXiang asked. He listened seriously and wasn't joking around. Lian replied, alive, ghosts won't do. I need to borrow the spirit and yang aura of the living to strike those resentful spirits away. If that's the case, then that means they have to be willing volunteers too, WuXiang commented. That's right, they have to be willing volunteers, Lian said, and they must have the will to fight back and protect. If they have fear in their hearts or their wills are weak, the spirits can take advantage to sneak through. WuXiang inclined his head. Just like soldiers fighting on the front lines in battle, they must be the ones who want to win the most, and the ones with the most faith. If they are forced or only want to run away, without any battle spirit, they would never win, and would wind up abandoning their gear, suffering utter defeat. That's it exactly, Lian. Can Long find those people? After some contemplation, WuXiang replied slowly, Gege, if you needed the dead, I could bring you however many you need. Involuntary living beings would be easy too, but to find voluntary ones, it won't be easy. After a pause, he continued, there certainly are plenty in the mortal realm who worship the Ghost King. But I know very well that 1, they are only terrified of me, and 2, they want to ask things of me, so they fear and obey me. I can force them with power and tempt them with benefits, but this method probably won't work in finding the people Gege needs. I'm sorry. Recap. Yang of yin yang, yang of yin yang. Yang represents the sun, the male, and the living. Lian was enthralled listening to this, and he said, oh, you don't need to apologize, let's just think of a way together. However, Gege, there is good news. Ahead of us, about 50 feet away around the corner, is a band of living humans. Lian sensed them too, and he rushed forward to see. Just as that group of people turned around the corner, they shouted in surprise at a sudden appearance, a ghost! Lian looked closely and recognized them and exclaimed cheerfully, oh, everyone, it's not a ghost, it's me! The group of various monks and cultivators were very familiar. The one leading was a cultivator dressed in glamorous robes. Wasn't that the Heaven's Eye? Oh! And the big group behind him, weren't they the band of monks and cultivators from before who harassed them relentlessly the entire way and were knocked out by the caved-in roof of that shady inn? Behind Lian, WuXiang approached with his hands easily swaying by his sides. Oh my god, that sounds terrifying! He certainly wasn't in the form of a child right now. With that nonchalant and chilling smile, Heaven's Eyes and the others instantly jumped back 3 feet from terror. And you say it's not a ghost! There's nothing more ghost-like than him! A ghost king, even! WuXiang's smile faded away, and he clicked his tongue in annoyance. Too lazy to even make a comment. Lian was searching everywhere for living souls right now, so he hastily raised his hand. Everyone, you've come right in the nick of time. There's something Yet unexpectedly, the moment he raised his hand, the reaction from the other party was much more exaggerated than expected. They fell to the ground, high on alert, and exclaimed to each other, "Watch out for hidden weapons!" Lian had to think for a while before he remembered what the hidden weapons they were referring to was, and he was speechless for a moment. "You don't need to be afraid. I don't have any hidden weapons on me." The incorruptible chastity meatballs weren't that easily forgotten anyway. Just the knife work needed to craft them alone would take half a day. He added, "Besides, you forced my hand last time, but I didn't do much of anything to you. Now, there's even less reason." Hearing this, the mob contemplated and thought it reasonable. They quickly crawled up from the ground, dusting themselves off, but they kept a distance, their staves and sacred swords and other spiritual tools never leaving their hands. Heaven's Eye spoke up. "I say this, Daozhong. We haven't seen you for many days, but the essence of evil in your body has gotten worse. I think it's best if you turn back now while there's still a chance. And speaking of, why is it this bad? I'm not trying to scare you, but I can barely see your face clearly anymore." Lian was going to flush listening to him and not daring to look at WuXiang as he cut him off. "Let's talk about that later. Everyone, I was observing signs in the night sky and saw some ominous creatures. Have you all seen it?" "Of course we saw it," Heaven's Eye said. "Observing signs in the night sky is work we always do every day. And here I thought it was some monsters or ghosts causing trouble. But could it be? Is it WuXiangzu?" "Of course not," Lian said. "Otherwise, I wouldn't be here alerting you." "We've also come because of those creatures. And we're just thinking of ways to reinforce the aura shield of the royal capital." Heaven's Eye was doubtful. "You two? Thinking of ways? Why would the Ghost King be so kind-hearted?" WuXiang grinned. "It's not out of kind-heartedness. But if I wanted to do something to the royal capital, this bit of shield has no way of stopping me." The expressions on the fellow cultivators and monks were unreadable. Lian knew that their caution and guard couldn't be so easily dropped, so he wouldn't try to force them. "I faced those creatures in the sky before. They're very difficult to deal with. If we let them break through the protective shield of the royal capital and intrude, everything will be thrown into chaos. So I'm seeking help right now to form an array. I need about 500 people. Heaven's Eye gaped. 500? What array is this? And to need so many? I've never heard of it before. Lian didn't have the heart to say that the 500 was the bare minimum requirement. In fact, if he could say it openly, he needed at least 800. The group of monks and cultivators were also blabbering. "I've never heard of this either. Has anyone else seen a record of any of my books? Are those creatures really that powerful? I've only heard of monsters that eat 500 in one bite. I've never heard of drawing an array that needed that many. Is it dangerous?" After much serious deliberation, Lian answered truthfully, "I can't say for sure. Maybe, maybe not. I'm only 8% sure, and I've never attempted this array before either." It would be impossible to find records of this in any books. So this array wasn't something Lian learned from books or someone else. It was just something he'd been ruminating and came up with as he walked in the past 800 years. Just what should be done if the human face disease should be unleashed again? They couldn't possibly just sit around and do nothing. At this time, he didn't actually think he would have to face this big crisis again and hadn't imagined this method would come to use. On the other side, the group discussed for a while before in the end, Heaven's Eye turned around. He said guardedly, "We don't have that many people, plus they didn't trust Lian and WuXiang. That couldn't be helped. After all, they didn't know what the human face disease was, how powerful it was, and with the past grievances between them and WuXiang, there must have been plenty of cases where they were played like nothing more than insects. Originally, Lian had thought perhaps these men were masters and should have a number of disciples in their schools, so maybe they could gather some 300 or 400 people and worry about the remaining numbers after, but it seemed this hope was fruitless. "Gege, stop wasting your breath with them," WuXiang said. "Let's go." Lian nodded, not the least bit discouraged, and went away with him. However, Heaven's Eye and the others didn't leave, but sneakily followed behind them, actually thinking they were well hidden. Lian was quite speechless, but he considered this group of masters were probably only trailing because they were fearful that he and WuXiang would cause trouble in the capital, their worries born of a kind heart. He thought it funny, but stopped caring. Just then WuXiang suggested, "Why not go to where the slums are? There should be plenty of those who are bold and daring and aren't afraid of death. Perhaps our search would be fruitful there." Thus, the two changed course and went for the shadows of the royal capital. They came before a temple that was fairly demolished and swept a look. Within the temple, there were a bunch of people sleeping all over the ground, stretching all the way to the outside of the temple. This seemed to be a band of homeless folks, or rather beggars. The air was frigid, the ground cold, but almost all of them were in ragged clothing. There were men, women, seniors, and children, and none of them were shy from the improper closeness. Some took over a tattered straw mat, and some were hugging hay for warmth, and some just slept on the ground. The ones awake were either sighing and wailing over the rotten sores on their bodies or picking off fleas from their persons. There was even someone who was dragging a lame leg, shuffling about, seeming to be delivering bowls of water to the sick. Before they entered, there was a suffocating smell of sweat and odd odor that came wafting out. That the most lavish and bustling area would be this close to the filthiest, most decrepit slums, with only but a street apart, the contrast was truly lamentable. Of course, Lian had no time to lament. He crossed over the threshold and called out, "Can everyone give me a hand?" No one answered, but someone cussed out, "Give your mom a hand! And I want someone to give me a hand too! You gonna let us sleep or what? Get out of here!" Lian wasn't offended and said, "It's something very urgent. If everyone was willing to help out, then you'll for sure bring prosperity to the world." He wanted to say be greatly appreciated, but if they came for the thanks from the start, then their minds would not be pure. The beggars in the temple cussed even harder. "What the hell has prosperity of the world got to do with me?" Someone questioned, "Is there compensation?" Lian looked back, and WuXiang's eyes were flashing with displeasure, seeming to be ready to be more aggressive. He quickly pulled him back, saying hushily, "Not yet. You said it yourself, Sanlong. We can't use force or temptation. I'll take my time to persuade them. There must be some we can use in this group of 70, 80 people." Only then did the sharp glare in WuXiang's eyes fade. Just then, a slightly raspy voice came. Hey, everyone hear me out! Hear me out! Now stop that noise! Let's hear what they gotta say first!" Hearing this, Lian looked back and saw the one who spoke up was the lame-legged beggar. His clothes were tattered and his face grimy, his hair disheveled, skinny, and gaunt. His appearance was unclear, but his voice sounded fairly young. He waved his hand to hail the crowd, but the strange thing was he only waved one hand, so his posture was a bit awkward. The other beggars all seemed to listen to him, so the sound of cussing and yelling faded. "Thank you," Lian called out, and he didn't waste his time. He flipped his hand over and lit up a hand torch instantly, the flames blowing high. The crowd of beggars all howled from fright, and the ones not yet awake woke up too. "What is that wicked magic?" Lian schooled his expression. "It's not wicked magic, it's spiritual magic. This proves that my words are not false. Truth be told, it's like this. Right now there's a large band of monsters and ghosts that have surrounded the royal capital, and they're about to attack. We need 500 volunteers who are willing to join the spiritual array to protect the royal capital. Who's willing? I won't lie, there might be danger. I'll never force anyone, I'm only asking for the willing." There was a blanket of silence that broke in that broken down temple. The beggars looked at each other, but there was no one who had stepped forward to say they were willing. A moment later, someone spoke up. "Protect the royal capital? Forget it." Lian looked up, and that man was slumped over, mumbling to himself, "The royal capital doesn't protect me. And they'd have me protect them? Do whatever you want. It's none of my fucking business." His indifferent tone was laced with anger. It wasn't that Lian couldn't understand, but this couldn't help him. Clearly, the temple was crowded with the same poor and suffering as that man who thought the same. Since there was no compensation and their days passed in the royal capital weren't that great, who would want to go help them at a time like this? It was already cold to death, huddling inside a temple in the middle of winter. Who would want to go out? Lian tried to give it one last shot. If those creatures invade the royal capital, there will be a very terrifying plague that will break out, and everyone will be infected. An old beggar lying on the ground said, "What plague could be more terrifying than these sores on my body? If there really is a plague, why not just leave this place, eh? We don't gotta stay here. It's not just like it's a good place anyway. It's the same no matter where. Just let those mighty, distinguished old masters and ladies in the royal capital go. Someone will go. Why must it be us?" Well, Lian couldn't tell them straight out. Those mighty, distinguished old masters and ladies would also think the same thing. I won't go. Surely someone will go instead. Besides, since they hadn't built a foundation here in the royal capital and faced with danger, there'd be more things that couldn't go, so the mentality would be even stronger. It wasn't that this mentality was wrong or that it was bad. It was just everyone thought this way and nothing could be accomplished. After a while, no one stepped forward, and Lian said resolutely, "All right, I'm sorry for the intrusion." And he turned around and left the broken-down temple. WuXiang comforted, "Don't worry, Gege. I've got people on the move on my side, too. The news has been spread, and we should be able to find people." Lian nodded. It wasn't that he was worried they couldn't find 500. He was just worried that there wasn't enough time. And to randomly grab people to make the numbers would be counterproductive. He glanced at the sky, and the rolling black clouds were still covering the skies, their intent unpredictable. Just then, a voice rang out from behind him. Wait, I'll go." Hearing this, Lian was taken aback, and he whipped his head around. The lame-legged beggar dragged his leg and hopped out of the temple door. The people you seek, as long as they're alive, it's fine, right? Broken limbs won't be a problem, right? So it turns out this man's movements looked awkward because he didn't have one lame leg, just one lame leg. One of his arms was also broken and it hung limp and listlessly. Seeing there was finally someone who voluntarily came forward, Shilian's heart was warmed. He replied immediately, completely not a problem. That man was fairly straightforward too. Well, then we're good. Take me along. The crowd of beggars inside the temple were shocked. What are you doing? Did you hear him? It could be dangerous. Yeah, and there's no pay either. They talk so much, but not a mention of compensation. Well, don't you involve yourself in the muddy water. Come back here, old Fang. Since earlier, Shilian had thought this man looked familiar. But this appearance was too different from the one of his memories. Plus his voice was slightly raspy, not quite the same, so Shilian didn't recognize him. Now they heard the people inside call it the word Fang, which is the word for wind. He snapped too. He watched him disbelief. Lord Windmaster! That old beggar laughed out loud, reaching out to swipe away the black hair covering his face. Oh, you caught me, your highness! Underneath the filthy black hair was a pair of exceedingly bright eyes, as brilliant as they were before. Oh my God! There he is! Ah! Oh! Oh! Gee! Okay, one more chapter. Oh, thank God. Chapter 205, The Search for 500. Abrupt meeting with an old friend, too. That's the old friend! Yes, Julian was so shocked he was rendered speechless. Ching scratched his head. I'd want to disguise as someone else at first and observe you guys in secret, but I didn't think your highness's eyes were this sharp. It can't be helped. It must be because my flair and grace are unforgettable. Ha 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 ha! Shilian rested his hands on his shoulders and choked out, Lord Windmaster. Ching stopped ha-haing, but was still scratching the side of his head, as if his hair was filled with fleas and it was itchy. Your highness, I'm not the Windmaster anymore. Fine, Ching-Chong, Shilian said. There was a pause before he asked, how did you become this way? It's a long story, Ching-Chong said. Anyway, it was just this and that and here and there, and I ended up like this. Just then the crowd inside the temple called out, What, old Fang, you know these two? Ching-Chong turned around. His arm went around Shilian's shoulder and he slapped it hard. Yeah, they're my good friends from the past. What, it's your friend, Old Fang? Why didn't you say so? Old Fang, the likes of you, actually knows a little white face, and you can tell with one look you actually knows a little white face who you can tell with one look was raised in the honey of tender meat. I bet you're bullshitting again. The crowd was surprised and amazed, making a big deal out of things. It shouldn't have been funny, but Shilian only felt upset. It had to be known that among the three of them, only the Windmaster of the past was the true little white face raised in the honey of tender meat. Ching-Chong was furious. So what's that you say? I'm not bullshitting. Please remember back when you were still mental and would speak nonsense all day. Think we've all forgotten? Ching-Chong wah-la-la, and cried several series of unintelligible noises. I'm going to go help my friends now. I'm leaving. Anybody else coming? This time, the crowd looked at each other. A moment later, they said, all right, fine. If it's Old Fang's friend, then it's different. Let's go along with Old Fang. Lest he gets beaten to death by somebody. He's already missing an arm and a leg. Hey! Ching-Chong called out. There were still those who wouldn't have given up and pressed. Is there really no compensation? Even if there's no pay, a chicken leg to munch on would be fine, too. Shilian gave Ching-Chong a brief account, and both parties now understood the situation. Ching-Chong gave it a thought and said, I can understand that we can't use force or temptation for a business, but giving everyone a bite to eat should be fine. Everyone hasn't had a good meal in a long time. As long as they didn't hold a greedy heart, it wouldn't be a problem. Shilian replied, it should be all right, but say it this way. He whispered a few words, and Ching-Chong said, I was thinking the same thing. Then he turned around and hollered, after this is done, they're going to treat everyone to a bowl of chicken leg soup later. Hey, everyone gets a bowl, whether you come or not. Attention. You get one even if you don't go. We only ask for volunteers. Now, the way he phrased it was crafty. Everyone gets a bowl. Everyone got to eat whether they win or not, which made the ones who decided to come immensely valuable. The Windmaster shouted, anyone else coming? The more the merrier. Come. Tell everyone there's no pay. Hey, it's just giving a hand, saving the world, surround the royal capital or whatever. It's just whatever, but we only want volunteers. We'll treat everyone to a good meal after this is done. Perhaps it was because there was someone leading the way. In the blink of an eye, the cold and indifferent temple suddenly became as hot as fire. and the beggars also split up to go inform more homeless folks they knew. Lian WuXiang and Shi Qingshang stood before the entrance of the broken-down temple. Lian looked up and saw that there should have been an establishment plaque that was empty. He couldn't help but remember the dilapidated temple of the wind and water back at the town of Fugu, and those divine statues of the water master whose head was cut off, and the wind master who was missing an arm and a leg. In the end, he couldn't hold it in. He turned to Qingshang and asked hesitatingly, "Qingshang." The windmaster dropped his arm from his shoulder. "What is it?" "Oh, sorry about this, Your Highness. My hand's a little dirty. Your clothes." Sure enough, his arm had left dirty marks on the shoulder of Lian's white robes. He looked as if he wanted to help Lian dust it off, but remembered they would only get dirtier the more he dusted, so he withdrew his hand, rubbing his nose awkwardly. As if Lian minded those things. He was only concerned with one thing. "Lord Qingshang, your fate." The windmaster was startled. "What about my fate?" "Did the black water change it after all?" Lian asked. Then it finally dawned on Shi Qingshang, and he quickly said, "Oh, no, he didn't. You've misunderstood. He didn't do anything." Lian didn't think the black water would change Shi Qingshang's fate in the end either. "Then your arm and your leg?" The windmaster scratched his head again and said a little shyly, "Oh, this wasn't him either. How do I say? There's some carelessness here and some really bad luck there, but this was all my own doing." Since he wouldn't tell all the details, Lian didn't press for him. Somehow, imperceptibly, Shi Qingshang's current state had affirmed Heshan's prophecy-like act of anger back at the Temple of Wind and Water. Who knows what mysterious force was at play? "That day my spiritual powers were suddenly sucked away and I couldn't help you. I'm really sorry," Lian said. Shi Qingshang waved his hand. "Oh, the whole thing has nothing to do with you anyway. It wasn't Your Highness who told me what was going on beforehand. My head might still be in the clouds. If it wasn't Your Highness who told me what was going on beforehand, my head might still be in the clouds all the way to the very end." "What exactly happened afterwards that day?" Lian asked. It turns out, after Heshan had decapitated Shi Wudu, Shi Qingshang slumped and became lifeless. He couldn't understand anything Heshan said to him, only vaguely recalling that Heshan had taken him out of the Blackwater Island. Later, he was ditched in the royal capital. He didn't understand why it was the royal capital, but in the past, Shi Qingshang had always fussed about going to the royal capital to feast and drink, so he was indeed fairly familiar with the area. Everything was a blur, and when he finally snapped out of it, he decided to just bury his name and settle down here. Since he completely lost all of his spiritual powers and had nothing to pinpoint his identity, he spent his days in blighted squalor. Naturally, the upper court wouldn't be able to find any traces of his whereabouts. "In any case, it has nothing to do with him," Shi Qingshang said. "I've never seen him since either." It was probably for the best that they never saw each other again. This affair truly was difficult to manage. A person like this, does he kill or not kill? Besides, the Watermaster also savagely disgusted Heshan at the brink of his death, and Lian seriously sweated for Shi Qingshang's fate. Right then, a band of beggars returned with more people. The mob pushed and dragged, loudly blabbing, Old Fang, we've dragged this many people for you. What do you think?" Shi Qingshang gave him a big thumbs up. "Oh, good work! Everyone gets a chicken leg!" "There's so many people. Will they be able to afford to feed all of us?" Shi Qingshang swept his hand, and for a moment, Lian almost thought he was going to toss out 100,000 merits. But he only said, "This is nothing! Never mind this many. They can afford to feed even 10 times this amount." Finally snapping out of it, as if he'd counted roughly, there was actually now more than 200 people gathered, completely outside of Lian's expectations. He was cheered. "Lord Qingshang, this is a great help." Shi Qingshang was proud and pleased. "Well, of course. I can call forth hundreds no matter where I go. Maybe in the future I can establish a gang or something and fish up a gang leader title." "Old Fang's gone mental again," the crowd of beggars behind them commented. "Yeah, right, he's swanking again." "Oh, what? I'm not swanking," Shi Qingshang exclaimed. But those beggars just had to pull his leg, and they said to Lian, "My friend, you don't know this, right? When old Fang first came, he was a mess, nagging insanely, chasing behind people all day, every day, to boast that he's a god." Shi Qingshang appeared slightly ill at ease and immediately griped, "I have no time to listen to you all talk nonsense. Leave your mouths for munching chicken legs." Lian listened to them quietly, his smile fading a bit. His heart felt like it was crumpled into a ball, but at the same time was laid out open and easy like rice paper. The Lord Windmaster had changed, but at the same time didn't. Thank goodness. Shi Qingshang spoke up. Your Highness, what do we do now? I've got the people for you. Now they're in your hands. Although the number of people wasn't enough, it'd only be temporary. They'd think more on it once the array was set up. Shilian replied, very good. Now we need to find an empty area that can hold this many people. Earlier during their conversation, WuXiang had never interrupted, and Shilian couldn't tell what he was thinking. Only now did he speak up. Well, that's easy to take care of. Gege, just come with me. Shilian nodded, and Shi Qingshang hobbled over as he hailed buoyantly, everyone come follow! Don't lose your way! Hey! Shilian had wanted to assist him at first, but when he saw no one went to help support him, and he didn't walk any slower than anyone else, he understood. A large group of beggars had pushed out of the slum in a bustle, pouring into the streets. But they didn't get very far before there was an angry shout. Well, stop there! What's this? There's so many of you. Are you trying to start something in the middle of the night? The beggars were alarmed. Oh, no, it's the night patrol. However, Shilian didn't bother to look back because WuXiang didn't look back. Don't mind them. Then the soldiers slumped down. The beggars were amazed and they started chattering. Shi Qingshang then cried, quiet, don't attract more soldiers over. And thus the group toned down to hushed whispers. WuXiang paused in his step and said, Gege, this street will do. This one? Certainly by location it's the most suitable, but wouldn't it be too conspicuous? The large street was very wide and spacious, flat and paved going forward. It was the main avenue of the royal capital, so of course it was conspicuous. Everyone chimed in, yeah, what if we get discovered and get chased out? But WuXiang said, it's fine. Even if they discover us, they can't chase us out. Shilian nodded. Everyone, I must make this absolutely clear to you now. What we'll be facing soon is something very vicious, and there could be danger. However, if it breaks through, then the entire royal capital will be endangered. So I need everyone to be sure that you're doing this voluntarily without any second thoughts. Is there anyone who is scared and wishes to back out? No one. Shilian continued, very good. Then will everyone now hold each other's hands and form a large circle? Someone was puzzled. What array spell is this? How come it sounds like babies holding hands? Shi Qingshang spit took and exclaimed, oh, so much nonsense. Just follow instructions. Oh, Feng, you got it wrong there. No one talks more nonsense than you, Yanyo. Chatter and bustle, the crowd followed the directions, and the 200-something people held hands, forming a very, very large human circle on the spacious and wide main avenue of the royal capital. Shi Qingshang asked, those creatures won't be able to charge into the royal capital as long as we hold hands like this? Shilian said, no. They'll be charging down sooner or later. Shi Qingshang was confused. Then what's the use of this array of yours? It's a trap, Shilian explained. Once this array is set up, when those creatures break through the protection shield of the royal capital and come charging down, they won't go rogue everywhere. They will instead be lured into this circle and fall into the trap. Oh, okay! All right! Oh my God, that's it! No! Oh my God, I can't believe the Windmaster's back. Oh, we need to talk about this. I like how last week I thought I had everything figured out, and in 2 chapters, MXTX was like, no, you don't. Yeah! MXTX is like, oh, it's so cute how you think you know how the story's gonna go, but surprise! Because, yeah, I thought, last set of chapters, I was like, man, we're just starting volume 7, but everybody's already gathered and all the resentful spirits are here and Bai WuXiang's here and Jun Wu's here. Are we going to wrap this up and have a volume and a half left to go? No. Oh my God. MXTX was like, actually, how we were all together and doing okay? Well, we're going to just completely split up now. And I was like, but oh my gosh, the mystery, the Windmaster is back! Oh my God, I am starting season 2 of the Donghua this week, and the Windmaster is back, and it's gonna be like seeing the Windmaster for the first time in the Donghua season 2, while seeing them again after 2 volumes in this. It's so freaky, it's gonna be so weird, right? I love it though. There's things to talk about. We can check things off the board. It's exciting. I'm really excited about it. There weren't any pictures this chapter set, which was frustrating. So I'm probably going to be going to the mods or to a select few of individuals over on the Discord and be like, hey, Can you help me find a picture of the Windmaster and Lian? I'd love to get a picture of the Windmaster as the beggar, as just Shi Ching Chong now, and have them next to Lian. That'd be a great picture for this chapter set, but I don't know if we're going to get it or not. So, womp womp. But yeah, I'm super excited. So what can we take off of the board, you may ask? Well, we can take off the Windmaster and Heshan. We don't know where Heshan is, but it has been apparent that we know what's happened now between the Windmaster and Heshan, which apparently was nothing, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, so we don't exactly get anything else answered. I kept thinking that Ling Wen was going to show up in chapter 203 because they kept talking about how convenient it would be if we had someone like Ling Wen to help us gather information, but Ling Wen's not there. Jun Wu doesn't ask about Ling Wen, which is interesting. Jun Wu just like, I guess she'll show up when she shows up, but doesn't really like ask any more questions. And then this whole thing with the Goshi, theories. We're going to talk about theories. I had a lot of things I wanted to say during the reaction. I was like, no, I'm going to read and then we're going to come back to it. So hopefully that will be the case. But man, I can't believe the Windmaster's with them. The Windmaster is back with them. Oh, so happy. HUACHANG is being very, nonchalant about the Windmaster being back because originally they weren't about the Windmaster, but now that their godly title's been removed, I guess HUACHANG doesn't consider them a threat. Or is like, you know what, Lian, now that you've confessed your love to me, I guess you can be with your friends. It's like, what a reunion. I love the Windmaster being back. And we'll talk about the whole changing and not changing thing. We'll talk about all that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole thing. That was the only thing that we can check off, but it's something to be checked off. And that thing has been on there for like 6 months. So I'm glad it's been on there since volume 4. So I'm glad that we can check that off, right? But Jun Wu showing up, like Daddy Jun Wu showing up, dispersing the clouds, shooting rays of light, dispelling resentful spirits. Daddy Jun Wu just come down, everybody's like, oh my gosh, except HUACHANG. HUACHANG's like, yay. I just love that he's like, nobody panic. I'm here. We're all good now. It's great. And so they're like, did you come personally? And Jun Wu's like, yeah, shit's pretty whack down here, so I really didn't have a choice. I love it. And I love that it's the Rainmaster that called him. I love that while everybody was freaking out about Lian and HUACHANG snogging each other, I like that while Pei-Ming and the others were freaking out, Yushi is like, hey, it's Yushi. It's the Rainmaster. These guys are up here freaking out about two guys being in a relationship. You want to come and help out because nothing's getting done, and I think we might be in trouble. And Jun Wu's like, okay. The last time Jun Wu saw Lian and HUACHANG, they were like leaving, going like, we're going to Mount Tonglu, everything will be all right. And then like 2 days later, Jun Wu's getting the phone call like, okay, it went to hell, great, surprising no one, awesome, here I come. I love it absolutely. And so they debate whether the birth of the new Ghost King has been stopped, and Lian's like, I guess. The only one that broke through the kiln was the statue, and this statue's not a divine supreme ghost, so I guess we stopped the process. So then what do we do? And I like that Lian and HUACHANG have this little moment where they wonder what they should do about the statue, and HUACHANG's like, we'll fix it, Gege. When we get done messing with this, we'll come back and we'll fix it. Like just this domestic stuff they're already planning after they save the world. No big deal. Just we'll come back and repair it. Don't you worry. So that's the thing. Suddenly, the resentful spirits all become this like tornado and go to the WuYong temple and disappear into this distance shortening array. Like that's what ends up happening. So the resentful spirits, let's map out what's going on here. We have resentful spirits. Okay. And I'm going to do my little resentful spirit tornado. My resentful spirit tornado, which you can't see because of the ring light. The resentful spirit tornado has gone to all major cities to start. But luckily, the cities all have this kind of like barrier around them, which is good. There's this like shield that's created from the king's aura. and from the other heavenly officials that are being worshipped there. So it kind of keeps them out for now, but it's not a full safe plan. Eventually they're going to get strong enough, they're going to break through the barrier. So Lian has the idea of, as we find out at the end of chapter 205, we're just going to lure him in and get rid of him. Now how they're going to, Lian and WuXiang and I guess Qingchang, can't really call them the Windmaster anymore because they're not, and the all of the beggars. And I guess we can also include Heaven's Eye and the others, because they're following in not so secretness, are all surrounding them in this like array that's a trap. So that's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see how Lian thinks that they're going to like vanquish them. That's going to be fun to see go down. But yeah, so Bai WuXiang has gone MIA, or we think that Bai WuXiang and the mountain spirits are going to be facing Jun Wu. I mean, normally you would think, well, Bai WuXiang's lost to Jun Wu before and they're not as strong as they were, so this shouldn't be a problem. But the mountain spirits are a problem. And having 3 of them, it's basically, could possibly be 4-on-1. We don't know about the Goshi yet, but I have theories about that. We're going to talk about it. They could be facing Jun Wu all at once. So, interesting that. Interesting that. So, yeah, So it says, what is going on? It's the white no face, and they used a distance shortening array to send the resentful spirits away, because now that there's no barrier, Bai WuXiang can do that, which is so frustrating, and functions like, well, what do we do? And I like that the first thing that I like that function defends Ling Wen being like, well, these guys talk to big game, but they can't do shit. Like, where's Ling Wen when we need him? And I honestly thought Ling Wen was going to show up, but nope. Ling Wen's like, absolutely not. I'm not coming out right now. I still think that Ling Wen is going to be like a Deus Ex Machina in some way, shape, or form. It's all going to come together, but I don't know how. I don't feel like it's going to be while Qingchang is around, because there's too much weird blood there between Ling Wen being such good friends with Shi Wudu, and then you have Pei Ming in there, and then you obviously have Shi, who is like, you know, just a beggar now, like you do. It's kind of sad though, because you know that Pei Ming and Ling Wen can't really do anything about it, but now they're just like living amongst the beggars. I don't want the Windmaster, the former Windmaster, to be a beggar the rest of their existence. So I'm hoping Lian can talk to them after it's over and do something for them, but they don't have an arm and a leg, which we'll talk about, but it's so frustrating and sad. I'm like, no, no, Windmaster. But we'll get to that. That was like, I was not expecting that at all. I was completely thrown. I was like, wait, what? Was that came from a mile away. I didn't see that at all coming. So WuXiang is like, they're going for the royal capital. Obviously, the royal capital has the most people. It would make sense for them to go that way. And I like that WuXiang is like, I'm over here just being this ghost king, knowing more than you heavenly officials. How dare? And they're like, whatever. And I like that Muqing tries to like say, well, of course we knew they were going to go to the royal capital. They were the most populated place. Like, tries to sling it back to WuXiang. It doesn't work. And Pei Ming's like, let's quit arguing and just take care of this. So WuXiang wants Yin Yu to help out. And I like that they acknowledge that. I like Yin Yu acknowledges that Jun Wu's there, and Yin Yu's like, this is kind of awkward. You banished me. But I feel like, you know, Yin Yu is a very humble person, and Yin Yu is not petty at all. They're just kind of like, you know, nervous around Qi Ying. But, you know, Yin Yu could be kind of petty and look at Jun Wu and be like, oh, I see you gave Lian 2 cursed shackles and an immortal body. I couldn't do that to anybody else you banished, but that's fine. It's fine. You know, I'm glad that Yin Yu isn't like that though. But they decide to send different people to different areas. And Feng Xin is sent south. So let's get our compass here. We have our compass. Our resentful spirits are going off in all different directions. So at the center of all of this, we have Jun Wu to stay with the mountain spirits and Bai WuXiang. So Jun Wu staying in the center at Mount Tonglu. To the north is going to be Pei Ming, who just goes off without a hitch. I like that he leaves Pei Su with Yushi. I was like, my little shipper heart was like, aw, Pei Ming, you leave and Pei Su with her, okay. And she's like, whatever. And I'm gonna guess that Ban Yu is in that boat as well. I'm gonna guess that Ban Yu's gonna stick around there too. So then we have the east, we have the south, and we have the west. The west, I love this Qi Ying and Yin Yu going off fading into the sunset together. I love that. Okay, first of all, the fact that Jun Wu looks at Qi Ying and is like, now remember, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't get carried away. I like that Jun Wu knows exactly who they're dealing with. And second, Qi Ying, all this stuff has happened, and they're like, I don't know where I am at and what's going on. He's like, 1 minute I'm embedded in a mountain, the next minute I'm meeting Yin Yu again, the next minute I'm becoming part of a light sword, and the next minute I'm watching 2 guys making out. Yin Yu's like, Qi Ying's like, I don't know what to do. And so Yin Yu's like, I'm just going to go with him, explain what's happening. I'm the only one patient enough to do this. I can't wait for all the fan fiction I'm going to read based on these chapters. Cannot wait. So what's interesting is that Feng Xin gets sent to the south. And what's interesting about that is that Lian could tell they wanted to go look for the fetus spirit and for Zhanlan. Wanted to go look for them. But I like that Jun Wu was like, we got no time for that now. We need to take care of this first, and then you can go look for them. Which leads to the royal capital to the east would be Lian and WuXiang. Man, Mooching going back to detention, getting their comeuppance. I feel like Jun Wu, I'm not saying that Jun Wu holds a grudge, because I don't think Jun Wu holds grudges. Like WuXiang does. WuXiang laughing his ass off as Mooching was carried away. It was a bit cruel, but I was like, oh, WuXiang's been waiting for a while to do that. Mooching just like looks over at him and Lian like, should have known. But I don't feel like Jun Wu holds a grudge, but I do feel like based on the stuff that's happened to Lian because of Mooching, not necessarily even because of that, but I feel like because of Mooching's personality, Jun Wu doesn't have much sympathy. And it's like, nah, you're not getting off the hook. You did this, you're going back. So I thought that was really interesting that Jun Wu like holds up the law and he's like, you're under detention and you're going back. It's an interesting way to get Mooching out of the picture for the story. So I don't know what's going to come of that, but we'll see. And then the Rainmaster decides to go back with Ban Yu and them, and because they don't really have a place in this. And Jun Wu decides to face the mountain spirits and Bai WuXiang. So then Lian and WuXiang get to the royal capital, and Lian's like, okay, I need to ask you about the Goshi. But I like that Jun Wu's like, did the Crimson Rainsop Flower do something to you? And Lian's like, no. Jun Wu is like a dad. He's Daddy Jun Wu. He's like, did your date, did he do something without consent, Lian? And Lian's like, no, there was consent. Lots of consent, but I don't want to talk about it because you're like my dad. Weird. It just has that vibe to it, right? Which is hilarious. But he talks about the Goshi, and Jun Wu's like, yeah, he's weird. So we get some things about the Goshi mentioned, that they're weird. And he's like, look, the master of yours, being the Goshi of Shanla, was a gross oppression of his talents. His skills are beyond your imagination. So what Jun Wu is suggesting is that the Goshi was potentially, he is way stronger than he looks. And he's older than he looks, and Jun Wu apprehended him, but he escaped. See, I have different theories about the Goshi. One theory was that the Goshi and Bai WuXiang are one and the same. They're the same person. We've not seen the Goshi or Bai WuXiang in the same place at the same time, right? Not seen that, right? So it could be the Goshi and Bai WuXiang are the same individual. The only thing, and it would make sense, like, the Goshi like puts on this front around Lian to try to get him to do the right thing, and then when Lian doesn't, they become Bai WuXiang, and they're like, why didn't you do that? There's two things I don't like about that theory. One is that the personality difference between Bai WuXiang and the Goshi is far too different. You could argue that Bai WuXiang like spitting on the Goshi and talking down to him is just Bai WuXiang talking down upon that persona of himself. But I don't like that. And the other thing is when Jun Wu said he apprehended them but escaped, it's like, well, yeah, but then he destroyed Bai WuXiang, so Jun Wu would know the difference, right? Or is Jun Wu not telling Lian because he's like, I don't want you to be disappointed that your master was actually Bai WuXiang. Don't know if you can handle. It would make sense why Jun Wu wouldn't want to say anything about that, because that would be something that Lian could not handle, knowing that his master he had all those years was the monster that fought him. But I'm like 10% on this theory. I don't know if I like it too much. He's like, I found him and neutralized him, but he still escaped. But he said, after Shanla fell, I found him and neutralized him, but he still escaped. That is, the way it's worded could mean a lot of things. It could mean the same thing that happened to Bai WuXiang. I don't know. I don't think so. And it said, I discovered he wanted to awaken something within you. Again, that seems like a Bai WuXiang thing, right? He wanted to awaken Lian's inner darkness to let him become his disciple. So, I don't know. He wants to awaken something in Lian. I could definitely see why Jun Wu would not want Lian to know that the Goshi is Bai WuXiang. So there's that. I also think that it could be that the Goshi was one of the four. Here's the thing. It's always been the Goshi and the three mountain spirits, or Bai WuXiang and the three mountain spirits. We've never seen Bai WuXiang, the Goshi, and the three mountain spirits in the same location together. So could it be that the Goshi and Bai WuXiang are one and the same? I don't know. But then when the Goshi was in the mountain saying the prince is too far gone and talking to the mountain spirits, why would it talk to the mountain spirits like that and not as Bai WuXiang? Because the Bai WuXiang and the mountain spirits seem to be working together later on. It could be that they're one and the same. I don't know. If the Goshi turns out to be Bai WuXiang and Lian's like, oh my god, my master was Bai WuXiang the entire time, dun dun dun, then it's going to be a freaky moment. But I'm like, I don't know. We'll do theories about this. Another theory is that the Goshi was also the Goshi for Bai WuXiang, who was the crown prince of WuYong. I'm more apt to this theory because, again, Bai WuXiang nearly answered to Your Highness in the last chapter said, so I think that the Goshi is more Bai WuXiang's Goshi, and he just relived his days as the Goshi with Lian, trying to correct the errors of his former life with Bai WuXiang, and saw how that went down. He was trying to correct it with Lian. That's like my big theory. That's what I think it really is. And it kind of makes sense. And Bai WuXiang talking bad about the Goshi is a nice parallel to Lian talking so well about him. And then both being crown princes who are with them. That would tie to the Goshi being so old and being powerful. That would make sense too. And then the other thing could be, that the Goshi is actually the crown prince. And maybe Bai WuXiang was the Goshi. That's another theory. Bai WuXiang could have been the Goshi of WuYong, and the Goshi of Shanla was the crown prince of WuYong, and stuff went down, and we don't know how that goes. So this theory here, I'm like 80% sure that the Goshi is the Goshi of WuYong as well as Shanla. I'm like 80% on that one. I'm like 10% on this one and 10% on this one. Not very much, but I'm not going to rule it out. But yeah, but the fact that MXTX is such a tease, right? MXTX is such a tease. They're like, MXTX gives us Jun Wu starting to explain things, and then just as we start getting answers that we've been wanting for the last 7 volumes, suddenly something happens. Jun Wu's like, I gotta go. It's like, I'm going through a tunnel. And Lian's like, just give me an answer. And then, no, we can't get that. How dare. And so Jun Wu's like, I gotta go take care of Bai WuXiang and this mountain spirit, but just to forewarn you, your master is not a simple creature, a simple character. If you run into him, be absolutely careful. So I don't know. Again, I think the Goshi is the Goshi of WuYong as well as Shanla, and thus he's insanely powerful because he's been around forever. He could very well be a heavenly official, a former heavenly official. I guess another thing, I'm going to label this down to 5%. And no, I'm going to keep, okay, here's my thing. I'm going to keep this at 10%. I'm going to make this 5%. And then another possibility is that the Goshi of Shanla could have been the former emperor before Jun Wu. I'm going to say 5% chance of that. I kind of like that because if the Goshi was the former emperor before Jun Wu would know that they're insanely strong and that they're powerful and that they've been around for a long, long time. And it could be that the Goshi was the former emperor of the heavenly realm before Bai WuXiang completely trashed it. And then after it was trashed, the Goshi came down to Shanla and was like, hey, you have the potential to be like Bai WuXiang. I don't want you to do something stupid like he did and become like him, which would be really bad for your kingdom and bad for the heavenly realm and all this stuff. So I don't know. I hate that MXTX just teases us. How dare they? How dare they? So they go back down the royal capital and decide that they need 500 people to make this array. And I love that WuXiang was instantly like, oh, well, I'll just find you 500 ghosts. Just make them do that. Easy peasy. And it's not just the fact that WuXiang would make the ghosts do it, but I think that the ghosts would be more receptive and more open to help Lian because of how Lian's been to them in the past and his relationship with WuXiang. But it has to be alive people. And they have to be volunteers. And they can't have any coldness or greed in their heart. So good luck with that. But I love that he's like, we need them because we need to borrow the spirit and the yang aura of the living to strike away the resentful spirits. So it's like the sun energy, right? It's like going against, it's doing the opposite of the moon. And so I can't believe like the reunions we had in this. We ran across Heaven's Eye. I never thought we'd ever see them again. I was like, who are these people? Oh, yes. From the Shady Inn from before, from back in volume 4. How crazy. That's been months ago. But yeah, they're there. And I love that they are just like, oh, we can't even like hardly see you, Lian. You've got so much evil spirit energy around you. And Lian's like, well, I have been making out with WuXiang quite frequently, so I get how that works. But yeah, so he tries to get them to help out, and none of them are open to it. They're all very afraid of WuXiang and Lian. They don't want anything to do with it. And the thing about it is, something I noticed in these chapters specifically, is the way that Lian and WuXiang handle the situation and the way they respond to it. It makes so much more sense now and almost seems like a direct response to us having read book 4 and seen their pasts. Like we see people turning them down. We see people calling Lian and WuXiang names. We see them cussing them out. We see them vehemently opposing them. And before book 4, we'd be like, oh man, this really sucks for them. But now we're like, oh yeah, no, we faced like 20 times worse than that 5 chapters ago. So no, we're good. I just think it's funny that MXTX is like, now see, this isn't so bad, right? After all that's said and done. And I like that the Heaven's Eye asks if WuXiang is kind-hearted, and he's like, no. He's like, I'm just helping my Gege because I love him, so just do this. But WuXiang reminds me a little bit of the Drag Queen Alaska. Sorry about that. So WuXiang gives up on Heaven's Eye and convinces Lian to give up on him too. And Lian's like, well, what do we do? So where do we go? We can't convince the royals or the nobles or the common people because they're probably not going to say yes. But why not go to the slums? Why not go to the temples? Because what have they got to lose? And it kind of, I like that it ties in Lian being a scrap collector and Lian being in the same boat as them at one point. So he kind of knows their mentality a little. So he goes and reaches out to them. And at first they're like, no, we're not going to have anything to do with it. Absolutely not. And that's when the beggar shows up. The beggar with the bum leg and without an arm. Asking everyone to hear them out. I didn't see this coming at all. Nope. Didn't see this coming at all. Didn't know. I figured the old beggar, what I figured was going to happen was the old beggar was going to just follow them and be like one person to start with. And then at every place they went, it started to gather a slow army. But no, and they're not even old. They just look it, right? But no, y'all, the Windmaster is back. Only now it's just she, Ching Shan. Mainly Ching Shan. Because they're not the Windmaster anymore. They're basically mortal. Which is... It's really sad, but I also really like that the Windmaster, who was this, like, fragrant and flamboyant, like, they've changed, but they've not changed. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I love that they just waved their arms around. I love that Lian said it felt like they were waving a million merits. So they're not completely different. And they have this, like, enigmatic personality that they draw people to them. So even though they're not a heavenly official anymore, they're still so charismatic. Like, that hasn't changed about them. They're so charismatic, they instantly draw people to them. And people are like, well, oh, Fang, what are we talking about? I love it. I love that Lian meets back up with Windmaster. It's so, so good. And so all the people start asking questions of Lian and WuXiang, like what's the point of helping out because nobody here will help out? And then the beggar, Ching Chong, decides to help. And they're like, come back, old Fang. And then that's when Lian realizes that Fang means wind. You caught me, Your Highness. And I love the idea that they sweep back the hair and you see the eyes of the Windmaster. I want to see this animated so bad. I was like, oh my God, they're brilliant eyes. And he's like, I'm not the Windmaster anymore. I'm Ching Chong. How'd you become this way? I like that the Wind... I want to call him the Windmaster because Ching Shan is very hard to say. But they're like, Ching Chong is like, it's a long story, but I'm kind of clumsy. And I lost a leg and an arm because I wasn't paying attention. You know, before I had all this fake luck that was supposed to be Heshan's. And, you know, now that I don't have it, it's like, ugh. Well, it's so crazy because Ching Chong is going through the same thing that Lian did. They lost their luck. They lost their fortune. And they're stuck in this existence like Lian. The only problem is Lian has a body that can heal itself and Ching Chong does not. So what's interesting is that I love the idea that Ching Shan, like, has the same mannerisms, same personality. It just shows Lian that even though the circumstances have changed and they're not a heavenly official anymore, they don't have the spoiled, luxurious life they had before, at their core, they're still a good person. And they're still the extroverted, social butterfly, helping others, being kind in their own way person that they've always been. And I love Lian saying they've changed, but they've not changed. Thank goodness. Like, yeah, the Windmaster is not the Windmaster anymore, but hasn't changed in that regard, right? And so, yeah, so then Lian's like, well, how did you lose a leg? Was it because of Heshan? They're like, oh, no. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything at all. You misunderstand. And so this part is interesting. They say that the whole thing had nothing to do with you. If you hadn't been around, I probably would have been in the dark until the very end. And Lian asks what happened. And so after Heshan decapitated Shiwudu, Ching Chong slumped and became lifeless, and they couldn't understand anything that Heshan said to them, only recalling that they took them back from Blackwater Island and to the royal capital. So we don't know what the Blackwater said to Ching Shan. I'm hoping we find out at some point. I'm hoping the Blackwater shows back up again. This makes me a little afraid that we're not going to see the Blackwater till like volume 8, which is fine. I just want to see the Blackwater before the volume ends and know what they said to the Windmaster. What did they say to them before dropping them off at the royal capital? I don't know. But it makes sense that Heshan's like, I don't know what to do with you. Here, go to the royal capital. And because they don't have any spiritual powers anymore, nobody from the heavenly realm can detect them. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, which is virtually impossible. So of course, Ching Chong just kind of like ran around and tried to figure out what to do. And in the process, lost an arm and a leg. I do like that Lian pointed out and remembered that the stone temple, when Heshan got mad and wrecked the temple, it decapitated the statue of Shiwudu, which ended up happening, and took the arm and leg from Ching Chong, which ended up happening as well. So kind of prophetic, which is interesting indeed, right? Right? So yeah, didn't understand why it was the royal capital, but he'd always fussed that he wanted to go there and eat and drink. So it's almost like Heshan was like, you've talked about this place forever and you always want to go here, so I don't know, here. This is where you've always wanted to go to. We're going to take you there now. But it's crazy. My mind is having trouble processing that the Windmaster's back in the story after all these volumes, after all this time. But thank goodness they are, because they convinced the beggars to come along with them, the homeless people to come with Lian and to help them out. And they convinced Lian, they're like, we can give them food. And here's how we'll do it. We'll say that everyone gets food. And that way those that come are coming because they want to, not just because they're hungry for food. It's genius. I was like, yes. Now, my fear is that eventually when they give them the chicken legs, they're going to be like chicken legs that Lian's made. And nobody's going to want to eat them. They're going to be like, You know what would be really funny? If after all this is said and done, if Lian was going to cook and then WuXiang's like, wait, no, I've got a better idea. And they make Qi make all the food for them because they're actually a decent cook. That would be funny. I would find that hilarious. But Qi is over with Yin Yu, so what can we do, right? I honestly thought that this story was going to wrap up, but now we have everybody in all these different locations. We don't know where Ling Wen is. We don't know where the fetus spirit and So is. We don't know where anybody is. We don't know where Bai WuXiang, if they're even with the mountain spirits, or if they took the distance shortening array to go to any one of these locations. We don't know. We don't know where the Goshi is. So this story that I thought was going to get wrapped up real quick. Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It's actually going to go on for a while. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So I don't know exactly how they're going to trap all of the spirits here. Like what the deal is. I don't know how they're going to trap them, what that's going to do, what the plan is. Lian seems to have a plan, but I don't know what exactly it is. And then I don't know how long the Windmaster or Qing Chong is going to be in the story, because after they stop the resentful spirits, Qing Chong doesn't really have any spiritual powers left, so they don't really need to go with Lian and WuXiang. It might be one of those things where Lian's like, okay, thanks for helping us. I'm glad I know that you're here. I will come back for you and talk with you. We'll have tea, but I gotta go save the world, and then I'll come back. But I can't believe they're back in the story. Can't believe we didn't get a picture of this chapter either, which is very frustrating. But yeah, I love the Windmaster. Even without the title, even without, their presence, they were able to bring all these people together and be this social butterfly that got Lian all this help. Like it's really coming full circle, and I kind of love it. So, And I just love the idea of Lian and WuXiang working together. Like, it's so beautiful to see them working together and trusting one another. And even though WuXiang doesn't know what Lian talked about with Jun Wu, he doesn't question it. And WuXiang doesn't question Qing Chong or anything like that. It's really great. And of course, there is the question asked when Lian tries to originally get the homeless people in the temple to help him. They're like, well, what's in it for us? And again, from the chapters we've just experienced, Lian knows exactly how that song and dance goes. So he's quite used to it. But yeah, I'm just floored the Windmaster's back. I love that they're here. I love their personality just sparks through, even though they're a beggar, even though they've got like fleas and they're skinny and they don't have an arm and a leg. I was like, what? Even though that's the case, I still love that they're back in the story, and I hope that the next chapters feature them primarily too. So, but yeah, crazy talk. These chapters went by insanely fast. Insanely fast. So I am going to wait. Unfortunately, I'm going to wait for the Manhwa Chapter 99 to come out this coming weekend. So I am going to wait and get some comments and wait for these chapters and do all that. Next week is going to be only 2 chapters. Chapters 206 and 207. Pages 75 to 96. It was 20 pages, but the next set of chapters is like 30. So I wanted to split them up with the Manhwa, so that's why. So next week may not be a long week like this one, but we've had some pretty hefty weeks the last few sets, so it'll be fine. So yeah, we're going to do chapters 206 and 207 next week, along with Manhwa Chapter 99. I'm super excited and see what all is in store with Ching Sean, now that they're back in the story, as well as maybe we'll get some more stuff on the Goshi, but damn it, now I feel like the Goshi and Bai WuXiang and all this extra mystery, I thought last week we were going to get all this answered like this week. No. Now we're going to have to probably wait to volume 8 to get that. But I don't want to know. So please, no spoilers, no hints or clues. I'm excited to hear what you guys think of the Windmaster coming back, what you think of them being a beggar, what you think of the temple scene or getting the beggar to help. I can't wait to hear your thoughts down below about it, but I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm super excited for next week. I hope you all are too. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week to talk about chapters 206 and 207 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye!